that original mindset or conditioning we get to, oh, if you're doing all of this, then
Yes.
how would you have any time? And I was like, wow, uh,
Yes.
I need to leverage, I need to get some help in what I'm doing, reset those goals and what my role is and what their role is. And you can have more in less if you go about it the right way. And there are lots of, mentors and systems and people that are doing it at a higher level
Yeah.
that you can reach out to and learn from. And exactly like your program here, where you're going, hey, I'm going to take some lessons learned and be able to give someone something to model off of, something to lean towards, some mentors. So for me, that was a big aha moment where I'm like, I need to shift this.
Well, hello and welcome. This is Jilda Vanderhayden reporting to you today with Van States, who happens to be the owner and president of Front Porch Properties, which is part of Keller Williams of Boise. And I'm so excited to talk to Van today about all things work-life balance. We actually haven't had a conversation like this before, so I'm super excited to bring him here today and have him share his words of wisdom, advice, and insight. And so, Van, just starting off, I'd love to have you tell a little bit more about your background to our audience here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me, and it's been great conversations with you before, and congratulations on your success and your progress in this field. So that's exciting. So yeah, my background, I grew up in Phoenix. I went to the Naval Academy for college, and after we graduated from there, I had a 5-year commitment to the Navy. I ended up staying in as an officer in the Navy for 7 years, working on both coasts and overseas. Got out of the Navy and was looking for opportunities and what to do. And after about 6 months in the corporate world, I decided that wasn't for me. And I got licensed and joined Keller Williams Realty and went into business for myself.
Wow, that didn't take you long to figure that out. 6 months. That's great. Wow.
So it's fantastic. I have my wife is also in the business. She is the CEO and co-owner of the Keller Williams Boise franchise, and then she's also the regional operating principal and she oversees 14 Keller Williams offices in Los Angeles.
Wow.
So we have real deep into the real estate field here, and 2 kids, 15-year-old and a 19-year-old that are sophomore in college and a sophomore in high school. So busy with them as well.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So just curious on the subject of work-life balance or, well-being at work in general. Mm-hmm. What does it actually mean to you, or how do you define it in your household?
Yeah, we here we kind of believe in a life by design, not by default, right? So wanting to have that work-life balance is important. I also Keller Williams does a ton of education and business building, not just, clearly, obviously, how to be good at real estate, but secondarily, how to be good in life, be a better person. And so I've learned a lot of these philosophies, from Gary Keller. One of them, Rich, is that work-life balance really is probably a myth, right? Yeah. We're never actually in balance, or we're not there for very long, right? That pendulum tends to swing kind of one way or another. So for me, trying to achieve a work-life balance really isn't keeping that balance. Like the analogy we've learned is kind of like a ballerina, right? Uh-huh. If you zoom in on their feet when they're standing on their toes and they're in balance, they're really just making micro adjustments, and micro adjustments kind of swinging one way, swinging the other way. It looks like they're in balance, but really it's a constant flux of pushing one way or the other.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And it seems like sometimes a lot of the professionals I interview, they appear to have it all together. But like you said, there's these tiny little micro adjustments that are happening that might not be visible to the eye. So that's very interesting.
And, as a business owner and operator, there are times, especially when you're new in your business, where you're going to get way out of balance and you need to. Right. So communication with your significant other ones, loved ones, friends, family, kids, that, hey, there's a time when I really need to grind and I'm going to be out of balance for a while.
Right.
That's okay. And then there are also times where, family first. So great. Hey, occasionally business or those priorities take a backseat to your bigger priorities. So it really is kind of being aware of, hey, where am I at in that, balance, and which direction do I need to push towards?
Yeah, and that's a very interesting perspective, Van. And do you have any particular guidance tools or I mean, sometimes those are things you just figure out as you go for sure and comes with experience, but I guess someone maybe starting out on the newer side or beginning of their career, how do they know when's the right time to, focus on working and work on a deadline versus, wow, hey, I've been neglecting my family, this other work stuff, you need to put a pause on it. So how do you or what do you and maybe your wife do to figure out what direction to go or what to actually pay attention to? Because that's a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And it's easy to get busy
Yeah.
one way or the other and not pay attention to the other. So one of the things that we really do kind of as a tool, is our calendar, right?
Mhm.
If, you know, we can't always have full discipline in every aspect of what we do, right?
Right.
So really having situational awareness of, hey, where am I on this pendulum swing, right?
Uh,
And how are my goals being matched by really what's on my calendar, and having the discipline to kind of follow your calendar,
mhm.
right? So maintaining balance, is a priority. Fun is one of the things that's very important to me. Fun with family, fun with friends, fun for my, people on my team. So I calendaring those, right? So the very first thing when we're talking about annual planning that goes on my calendar is time off, time with the family trips, family vacations, spring break, baseball tournaments for my son. Those go on the calendar first, and then my business priorities get calendared after that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I love that. And that explains a lot, and I've noticed too, it doesn't really impact your business. You have lots of communication, lots of team support. So clients don't ever feel like, hey, I really need Van. Like someone's always stepping up. So that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for that. Leverage in your life and in your business is really important too. And having great people with you that can help, leverage some of the things that are important that need to get done, but doesn't necessarily have to be done by you.
Mhm.
That can give you some great balance, because all the priorities, all the client needs, customer expectations are being met, and it doesn't always have to be you.
Right. Right. And I'm just curious, does your wife also share the same values in terms of prioritizing family and the fun first? Because that's, to be honest, we've all been culturally programmed or ingrained that the opposite is true. So I'm just really super curious, like, is that something you both share? And B, was there some point where there was a shift that you had to change it to that because of all the other programming, or is that something maybe it was modeled very well for you and you already had it in you?
Well, it was modeled well for us, and we clearly didn't always get it right.
Yeah.
When you're beginning your career, building your business, if you don't pour into that and make that a priority, then you're soon going to be looking for something else to do, right? So
Mhm.
it's also about where you're at in that process too. In the beginning, hey, we're building, we're growing, and it's going to be, there are times when it's, let me kiss my loved ones goodbye, roll up my sleeves, and get to
Right.
work.
Exactly.
Um, and now, fortunately, we've been able to grow a great established business, and like I said, I have great support and people on my team. So with our, cross training with really learning how to be a better delegator, there are people that are doing a lot of the stuff that we need to do in business that do it better than I would. So I'm actually being better served by having them do it and learning how to let go of some of those things that don't have to be done by me. And to answer your question, yeah, my wife is definitely on the same page of that. She's a hard charger, and she's a grinder, and she also recognizes, like, I need to block time to work, exercise. I need to block time to rest. I need to block time for family. So we talk about that. We are on the same page of that. And again, it kind of goes back to, if you don't know where you're going, you can get off track so
Right.
fast. So we do talk about, hey, how is everything going? We're learning now with teenagers that are, one's out of the house in college and one's in a couple of years will be, we're going, that time with them is so important. We want to block as much time with them as possible. So
Oh,
yes, we are on the same page, and we calendar and goal set based on that as well.
awesome. Awesome. And are there any particular strategies or tools when it comes to time management? Now, I know you mentioned calendaring, so if we've covered that, that's okay. But anything else in terms of helping to manage your time other than what you've already mentioned that you wanted to add?
Yeah, and it's, one of the things that I'm continuing to work on being better at is working on my business and working on our, personal situation, whether that's personal relationships, personal finance. So
Interesting.
I think one of the tools that we tend to do, whether you're just in a job or whether you're, just with your kids, is we're working in that, right? We're working in our business, we're working
Yeah.
in our job, we're working on, in something with the kids, we're taking our baseball, we're doing, whatever. But we don't take a whole lot of time to work on our business or just work on ourselves,
Hmm.
right? So for us, we really try to focus on, you know, relationships really are the conversation you have with people, right?
Yeah.
And if we're not blocking time to kind of thinking time, think about, hey, where am I at? Where do I want to be? And where do I need to course correct? So really trying to take, and we've kind of been coached, hey, take a couple hours on a Friday afternoon and do some thinking and reflecting.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not great at that. I'm still working on implementing it, but taking that time to think, where am I and where do I want to go, both personal life and relationships.
That's fantastic, and it's something that I usually advocate for a lot of the clients, that especially the individual work-life balance coaching clients I work with, just because it's so easy. Just we're in this go, go, go. I gotta do, and it's hard to just stop and reflect. It's like you almost feel like, oh, it's a waste of time. This doesn't feel like it. But the funniest thing is when you give yourself that time and that space to do that, not only do creative ideas and solutions come through, but you can feel more on track, more refreshed, more revitalized. And if anything, you end up, counterintuitively being more productive in just investing in that. So that's very interesting. And thank you for sharing that and being open about kind of where you are with it. I love that, man.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah. And are there any particular mindsets that you adapt to really help you stay in balance?
Yeah, one mindset that I think for me takes some of the stress and pressure off is what we talked about initially, is that staying in balance, for an extended period of time probably isn't realistic for most people, right?
Right.
So give yourself that freedom to take the pressure off, to say, hey, I get it. There's going to be times when I've
Right.
oh, my, kid had a baseball tournament out of state and I was gone for 4 days, right?
Right.
And I feel like I got to get back to work.
Exactly.
And there's times when I'm like grinding and working evenings, weekends, 7 days plus,
Yeah.
and oh, hey, I need to take some time to reflect and get back on track with that personal balance. So one of the mindset things that's worked for me is realizing that, it's okay to be out of balance, and we all are probably most of the time.
Yes.
So the mindset of like, no one's perfect, no one's ever like nails everything, and
Right.
that's all right. But just the situational awareness to go, okay, great, let's take some time to recognize where we're at and
Mhm.
which way we want to go.
Yeah, that course correction, that makes a lot of sense. I love that. If you find yourself getting off track, is there anything in particular other than what you've covered already? Because some of these are really good, especially the kind of just sort of that self check-in to see,
Mhm.
well, where am I? And that pause to really think about it and reflect. Like those are two and two together. That's awesome. But anything else that I might have missed or that you can think of that, oh, that could be helpful for someone to know? If not, we'll keep going because you've already given me some great gems as well. So,
Well, thank you. Just one of the other things that I try to keep in mind mindset wise is recognizing, when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else,
yes.
right?
Mhm.
So, yes, I'll take on this additional work, and that makes I'm saying no to my family at that time. Or if I'm
Mhm.
saying yes to my family, I'm saying no to some other things. And there's appropriate times to do both. But again, just kind of recognizing, hey, if I'm saying yes to something, what am I saying no to?
Right.
And then when I reflect on that, how does that get me on track to my goal, right?
Yes.
So goal setting, and we use a goal setting tool called the 411.
Oh.
And when I'm feeling like, hey, I'm going one way or the other, that could be okay, but how is that in alignment with my goals? So so the
Yeah.
411 is a goal setting tool where you have the 4 weeks of a month. How does that set into your 1 month goal, and how does that 1 month goal set into your 1 year goal, right? So these goals could be business goals, productivity goals, personal goals, financial goals, relationship goals, right? So if,
Mhm.
if I'm if I'm feeling like I'm on track or off track, hey, let me reflect on my goal and where do I, really not just situational aware on balance, right?
Yeah.
But how does that balance affect my goals? And when I'm saying yes to go something towards my goal, if I'm saying no to other things, that's okay. So for me, the additional tool that I put in the mix on my balance is am I in or out of balance, and how does that uh, reflect on my actually goal and where I want to be? So I'll mix in not just the calendaring, but the goal setting as well.
Okay. And is it there any physical reminders with the 411, or that's just sort of a checkbox that you go through when you're reassessing whatever it is that you want to look at?
Yeah, no, the physical reminder. I mean, we have printed out one sheet,
Oh,
um,
okay.
but
Yeah.
it's a weekly calendar item is a 411 review, right? So that I can go
Yeah.
look and say, hey, what were my goals last week in job,
Uh-huh.
business, personal, financial? How did I do on those? Based on
Yeah.
those last week, what do I need to adjust for this week, right? So
Huh. Yeah.
so there is that physical tool, where, and also if it's not in your calendar, a lot of times it doesn't exist, or it gets
Right.
skipped, because it's really easy to get 6 months, 8 months, 12 months down the year and go, hey, how did I do according to my goal? So if you're not looking at that
Yeah.
consistently, you get off track too. So to your point, that is a tool that we use too, um, kind of to balance, hey, how am I doing on these in these
Mhm.
different goal categories?
That makes sense, and it's funny because most people will set, brand new set of goals at first of the year. Come now, we're filming mid February, Valentine's Day. It's like, oh well, yeah, I guess I should look to see how I'm doing. So it's interesting that tying it back to those goals more frequently really helps you keep on track. And you mentioned different adjustments. So like you were describing earlier, is it a matter of, oh wow, because I had this work deadline, I had to dedicate more time last week, but wow, hey, it's going to be a little bit less busy at work. Here's more time where I can focus on our family. So is that what you're doing on a weekly basis, like constantly adjusting,
Yeah,
depending on your goal of the week, or what got, the
yeah.
attention last week versus this week? You know what I mean? Because it's like there's a lot if you're talking personal, financial, relation, like it's a lot. And that's where I think a lot of people get stuck, and they feel like it's got to be equal in all categories, which, like you said earlier, this is not what we're talking about. It's a constant adjustment,
Mhm.
and it's almost like a game. You have to just you're going to get better and better at it every time, but know that it's always moving. It's a moving target. And at the same time, that permission, as you giving yourself that grace, like it's okay, this is just how life really operates. And that pre-programming is so strong culturally that you're like, no, I thought I'd have this great house, got the spouse, got the kids, got the dog, got the white picket fence. We're promised we can have it all. But I always like, Oprah's quote of, you can have it all, but just not all at once. And I think
That's a great point. Yeah.
like the balancing act, and it's more of you're more nimble. You're like, a ninja constantly kind of figuring stuff out, and wherever the opponent is, you're making those adjustments, but you're always on the move, and you have to really be nimble in order to kind of like stay literally physically balanced and not get off kilter and someone else take you to the ground or whatever that looks like.
Absolutely. You're not setting your own direction, someone will set it for you.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Oh, I love that. Yeah. That's a good one. You learned that in 6 months. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And that's an empowering one. I'll set it for, I'm just making a note.
Yeah, I've heard it said another way, like, right, if it's you're either kind of working your own plan or someone's setting a plan for you,
Yeah.
and which either way may be okay, but just knowing, hey, where am I at in here, and is this taking me where I want to get?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. If there's anything, Van, that you learned earlier on in life in regards to this particular topic or that you wished you implemented sooner, what would it be? Is there anything in that area that you wish you had known sooner?
Yeah, love the Oprah comment of, you can have it all, just not all at once. That's fantastic. And it is kind of true, right? There's steps, right? So one of the things for me, I think early on in my career that actually held me back was, and I'm not sure how this goes into the work-life balance equation, but one of the things early on, I think I had a little bit of a fear of success, right? Especially being self-employed, the more we hustle, then the more clients we can get, the more deals we can put together, the more money we can make. And I had this little bit of fear of, gosh, well, if I really go, all out, balls to the wall, do everything I think I can, then my personal life's going to suffer. My family's going to suffer. Time with kids is going to suffer. And there was a period of time when I was a single dad, and I got a little more out of balance that way, trying to work on learning how to be a better dad than business. But that fear of success, kind of like, oh, I don't want to be too busy because then I won't have these things. One of the things I kind of learned mindset was that definitely like held me back, because the busier and the more opportunities you get, the more leverage you can actually have in your life. And now when I finally got some great leverage on my team with Sarah and Kylie, I'm realizing, gosh, they're doing a lot of these things better than I can, or better than I would. We can do more business in less time with the right people. So that fear of success that held me back because I wanted to be in balance. Myth, because had I pushed forward, I could have had better help and better leverage sooner, had even more balance and a bigger business. So that fear held me back. And here we are, 20 years later going, aha.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and then is there anything, I guess, that helped you make that shift? Because it's like that takes a while to, like, either you experience it and then you realize, okay, well, that either that happened, or was there some other aha in there that made you realize, wait a sec, the busier I am, the more clients I can serve, the more leverage I can use, and I can still have balance.
Yeah, it was one of these silly conversations I had with a big mega realtor from the Northwest. He has multiple offices, multiple teams, multiple other businesses. And he was talking to me about coming down to Idaho to fly fish with me. And I just at the time, thought it was a normal comment, and it was a big aha for me. And I said, hey, I'd love to take you out, and, we can hit my cabin, we can go fly fishing, we can blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure you probably, so busy, you don't have time to squeeze out a couple days. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have great people in all of these positions, but I have all the time I want now.
What? Wow.
Just like you said, that original mindset or conditioning we get to, oh, if you're doing all of this, then how would you have any time? And I was like, wow, I need to leverage. I need to get some help in what I'm doing, reset those goals and what my role is and what their role is. And you can have more in less if you go about it the right way. And there are lots of, mentors and systems and people that are doing it at a higher level that you can reach out to and learn from. And exactly like your program here, where you're going, hey, I'm going to take some lessons learned and be able to give someone something to model off of, something to lean towards, some mentors. So for me, that was a big aha moment where I'm like, I need to shift this.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's probably a really, really big one, and one that it makes sense. You get where you were coming from, but to know that those successful folks that's got multiple businesses, that's yeah, it's exactly, because it's like it's almost like we're putting our own frame of, well, we're so busy that they must be so busy. And then he's like, well, wait, what are you talking about? I got all this time. So it's just this, that's
Yep.
amazing. And it's like, that's inspiring, because to be honest, I think that's something that's sort of holding me back, because I value balance so much that it's like, but I want to help more people. And in fact, it's interesting timing, because I had a similar conversation with one of these interviews where a lot of the theme is that look at the leverage, look at the freedom that, and it's possible, but it's almost like there had to be a line that was crossed to then realize that once you use that leverage, and I was trying to do some editing a video, and I'm like, well, I didn't give the person enough time. Well, I just actually had a conversation last night with a VA, virtual assistant, and I'm like, I'm hiring her, and I'm like, I'm going to see how this works. And I bet you experiencing that freedom and like buying your time back is really going to be game changing. So it's interesting timing.
Yeah, and thank you, and that's fantastic. And one of the other things that we look at too when we're trying to figure out leverage in our personal life or business. So we have a personal assistant as well that works probably 12 hours a week, 3 or 4 hours a day, a few days a week, and all those little things that need to get done around the house, or need errands to get run, or things that could take us away from our other priorities, which could be our family, our friends, our business, our personal goals. So personal assistant leverage, it's not ton of money. It's a great opportunity for them, great opportunity for us. And
nice.
Kind of lost my train there, but taking that leap to go, when we look at our jobs or our lives, and we look at kind of the dollar per hour goal we want to get to. Right? So we go, there are just some things that are important, but they're not quite at the same dollar per hour that we want to earn. Right. Yeah. So we're not saying that those people that do those jobs aren't worth more than that, but there are certain jobs that really are only worth so much.
Right.
So, if, doctor's probably a weird example, right? But the doctor is a specialist, and they're a high dollar per hour individual typically, right? Well, they're not checking the person in. They're not maintaining all their records. They're not setting appointments. They're not doing the checkout. They're paid for what they're best at, and their highest dollar per hour is, right? So if they had to do a one-person shop to run a whole doctor office, they'd be seeing a lot less patients, be making a lot less money. So they're going, well, if I can get leverage and just do the things that I'm really good at that are probably a higher dollar per hour, and then I can have other people do the things that are important, but maybe not as much dollar per hour, I'm buying some of my time back. I'm not necessarily losing money, because I can do, in the doctor example, I can see more patients. I can do more real estate deals. I can sell more, whatever you're selling.
Exactly.
But I've got help in these areas that are at a lower dollar per hour than me. So I don't have to do it all. And I can do more with that.
And Van, would you mind providing a couple examples of what you use your personal assistant for?
Sure. You mentioned pets. Like, we have 3 dogs, right? So she'll, hey, if they need to go to the groomer, need to see the vet for a checkup, like she'll pick them up and run them to the vet. Simple things like dry cleaning, grocery shopping, straightening up the house. We have a house cleaner that comes twice a month, right? But with 3 dogs and kids, sometimes you need stuff picked up there. She will sometimes do business errands for us, personal errands for us.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's been a game changer. Yeah.
Where do you usually find someone like that? Like TaskRabbit, or?
Yeah, that's probably a good one. I know Indeed, social media is a good one. We had a woman that worked with us for about 4 years, who husband had really good income. She had a little one and was pregnant, had a second little one with us, and so she was looking for some part-time opportunities, but didn't want to necessarily be tied to a set schedule, didn't necessarily want to be. So it was a great opportunity for her to get some working in and some hours in, with a pretty flexible schedule. And she was great. Then had another child and said, great, now I need to focus on being a mom. So we found another local gal that worked with us for a couple years. Young gal that worked a couple different jobs. She moved out of state, and we hired her cousin.
Oh,
and our cousin's working
interesting.
with us now. So
Oh,
just those last two were just through our network. We found people, social media, Indeed, TaskRabbit, those kind of
okay.
things. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. And then I guess just to be cognizant of some of our audience, which who are, in a W-2,
Hmm.
they're working regular traditional hours, they get overwhelmed and, they might be thinking, well, that's nice, but I don't have maybe budget or funds for that. What would you say to them, or what would you have them like maybe start with, or
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a lot
yeah,
easier for us to sit here and going, hey, well, if I can do more business, I make more money, and then I can
right.
hire
Yeah.
help. And when you're fixed income, great. Hey, work hard. I might get a raise. I might get a bonus. I might get this. But
Yeah.
generally fixed income, then it makes it harder. So
Mhm.
that's when you kind of have to go back to priorities of,
Okay.
okay, cool. Let me make sure I'm not wasting time on things that don't head me toward my goals, right?
Right. Right.
Um, where if I need to do a little more planning or time, family time and stuff, and make sure I'm not doing that. So I'm probably not the best person because I went besides a brief stint, I went straight from the
Right.
military where we were basically told what to do, when to do, how to do it, and it was fixed income.
Right. Yeah.
Standing watches and doing those things where you're away from your family and deploying, um, where you're going, okay, this is just it. I have to plug and play and do this thing, and you don't really have much time to think about work-life balance. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
to the opposite of, hey, I'm self-employed. I can swing all the
Yeah.
way to freedom, which
Right.
usually means no money, or money, you can get the financials, which means I don't have the freedom. And
Yeah.
how do I get that back to getting
Yeah.
both? So for the self-employed people, are probably not the best example other than really just focusing on those goals, right? So
Yeah.
how can I maybe structure my position where it is a little more flexible? A lot more people are working from home now, but going, how can I apply that fixed income or potentially fixed hours
Uh-huh.
to balance, right? On
Right.
one hand, you might think, oh, that's easier because you know what your commitment is time wise, and you have all the rest of the days, evenings to do your other stuff. But that's not always the case, right? It's probably not
Mhm.
always easier when your fixed hours or fixed income.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, I guess maybe a better question for you, Van, because you're right. Your background was more from military straight into that brief 6 months of corporate, all the way to then self-employed. So I guess the better question maybe would be if you had to give yourself advice back before you hired maybe a personal assistant or before you started using leverage, would there be anything that would help you get over that? Oh, wait, I don't have a budget for that, or I'm not bringing in the new business yet. So how can I justify? Like, they're like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So, like, I
Yeah.
guess, is there anything that now you know what you know, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. But for people maybe in that boat, what would you say to them, or what would you advise so that they could kind of see what you see?
Yeah. And that's a great question. Again, I would think trying to stay in a work-life balance equation of
Right.
where am I at, which direction do I want to go.
Yes.
Um, Still, even if I'm fixed income or fixed hours,
Yeah.
spending time to work on that, right? What There's an old saying that what you focus on expands,
Yes.
right? So your RAS, your reticular activating system, if you're thinking or reading or studying about something, then you start to see more of it, right? So what you focus on expands. And if you're focused on, hey, I really want to focus on a work-life balance, then
Yeah.
that opportunity is going to expand for you. The way to focus on it is, like you said, kind of systems, models, calendaring, and time blocking for it, right? So
Mhm.
if
Yep.
I just do, you know, maybe, pick a time. Hey, instead of going to lunch with my work buddies on Thursday, I'm going to go have a quiet lunch for myself. I'm going to unplug my phone and just kind of, hey, where am I at in those things that are important to me? Right?
Mhm.
I think for a lot of us, it's, hey, our personal goals. Could be finance, it could be relationships, and then business or work, right?
Yeah.
So taking time to go, I might not be able to buy leverage at this point. I might not be able to
Okay.
have
Yeah.
some help and do those things, but
Yeah.
I can actually focus on these calendar block a little time so I can check in
Yeah.
on where am I at with these personal goals? Where am I at with, financial? Where am I at with my family and my important relationships? And where am I at on that work-life balance? And is there any tweaking or help I need to get to go that? Because it's really easy, I think, for everybody, self-employed or employed, to feel that burnout, either the burnout of, oh my gosh, I have no personal life or no
Right.
balance, or the, oh my gosh, I've had some friends that got to work remotely and they're like, it's so easy to get distracted and not really work
Yeah.
sometimes. So they said, I swung too far this way. So just the system of whatever you can make work. Hey, I'm going to block X amount of time each week where I'm going to check in with myself on those things. I think would be a great model for people to work on balance in that work-life equation for themselves.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man, because you're just basically advising that, hey, work with what you have. It's okay. We acknowledge not everyone may have the budget for a personal assistant, etc. But as you said, it's pretty affordable. So maybe it's something that as they start to put, whether it's systems or time blocking or other tools that help them maximize the time that they have now, that then they'll start to see some openings of, wait, this, when I look at my dollar per hour versus what I could be spending on, those shifts are, you might be able to see it. And then, hey, I'm not going to go out to eat, as often. Maybe they can find the funds for things like that. And I'm sure once, just like with this VA I'm hiring,
Yeah.
that once they experience what that's like, you're going to want more of it. And I think, and then then it naturally kind of lends itself to doing more of that. So I think
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense, and that's really helpful for folks to have. And I think the other part is just that seeing the examples before you, like your friend that's the fly fisher, just seeing that at all levels, wherever you are, you have different tools and strategies to work with. Start there, and you can always go to the next level. So that's really cool to wrap my head around. So thank you for sharing that. And it's encouraging. I'm like, okay, well, let's just see how it goes. And a lot of times I know it's a matter of, well, but they're not going to know exactly what I want or how I do it. And there's a little bit of those kinds of things. But I was noticing, hey, I'm actually preparing and like letting her know. And even though investing the time to set it up of like, hey, this is how I want it, you become a better communicator. And then, I think it helps you be a better version of yourself because you're using your best strengths for the projects that you're best suited
Absolutely.
for. And then it actually is helping all your clients, everyone else you touch, your family, everyone. So in a sense, it's better for everyone.
Yep. And there's, it's kind of one of those life hacks, right? When you think about,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a newer, younger business, whatever, and I don't want to, I don't know how to go about hiring a full-time employee or want to take on that giant salary, and that VA is a great hack, right?
Yeah.
So again, not that those people aren't worth more,
Right.
right? But that position and being a virtual assistant, you're generally going to be able to hire a VA a lot less expensive than
Mhm.
a real, not
Right.
real, a local full-time
Local
employee.
person. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And oh no, I have to have office space for them, and I have to this and worry about.
Right.
So the VA is a great hack, and what I would advise, people that are getting to that is, again, mindset wise, it doesn't always have to be you, right? So even if someone's
Right.
going to do it 70, 80% of you as good as you would do it,
Uh-huh.
there's an old line that says, like, perfect is great, but done is better.
Right.
Right. So if I can get help and it's good, maybe not to the highest level
Right.
you might want it at, but there's 70, 80% of you. And
Mhm.
then that can allow you to focus on getting better at the other things. Then
Right.
that's a great move for you.
Yeah. And I'm thinking it's more a matter of like, just do it, meaning you're not sure, you might be unfamiliar or uncomfortable, but then just do it. And then you'll learn and figure out what needs to be tweaked. So you can't lose in a sense. It's just almost permission to give yourself an actual experiment to just try it out. And then if it's not working the way you want, just change it.
Right.
So
And as far as the employer leverage thing too, it's not a, necessarily a 12-month commitment, right? So
yeah.
just to throw out a number example, like, hey, if I got a $20 an hour employee
Yeah.
times 2,000 and some hours a year, I'm going, that could be a $50,000-$60,000 commitment, and I'm not ready to write that check. Well,
Right.
that's not necessarily the case. And
Okay.
VAs can be a lot more, affordable,
Right.
and it can be a red light, green light thing where you're going, okay, hey, let me give this a green light here for a month, see how it goes. Now, what have I risked? I risked a month of that salary, not a year of it. Right?
Right.
Oh, it's
Right.
working well. Good, green
Yeah.
light. Let's do it again, or let's keep going, or let me add some more. So that mindset of, okay, this isn't a giant commitment or giant risk. It's a short-term risk to see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. I like a lot. So just to give an audience a little bit more, but obviously you like the fly fishing, your family's important, but are there other things you particularly like to enjoy when you're not working? And you already told us how you do it. You put that on the calendar first, which is, hey, because the second part of that question for my normal guests is, well, how do you create the time to do that? But Van already told us he just puts it on the calendar first, which I think that's like a total different like prioritization right there and mindset right there, which is like, wow, you're fun in your family. Not only do you say it, because I find it's the opposite. People say that their family is very important, but when you look at their calendar, that's not matching up.
Right.
And I'm semi-guilty of that too. So don't worry.
It's
But
pretty easy. We've had some people, professional coaches that are coaching us in our business, and they say, "Oh, really? That's your goal? Let me see your calendar."
yeah,
And it is true. But so we do calendar those things. We love to travel, love to explore, spend time up at our cabin. I like to get outdoors and fish and hunt and hike. We do a lot of that. I'm big on education. So we'll travel to educational events, right? We had the CEO and head of industry for Keller Williams International teach in LA a couple weeks ago. So I got a ticket, flew out, went to that event, and spent a day learning from those guys. So got to mix a little travel with a little education, and so we'll do a lot of that. And let's see, kids, like I said, kid sports, we've done lots of those, and great thing is, like, I probably can count on one hand the number of games I missed of my kids' events. So those are real important to us too. So
yeah, no, I love that, man. And this is such good timing because every time we get to chat with someone, there's so many really cool insights that come through, and it's like a new learning every time for me, I think. But very, very, very inspiring. So is there anything else, whether resources, tools, anything else that made the big difference? And again, you've given us a ton. So just in case you forgot to mention something or something came to mind recently, anything else you wanted to share that's been helpful?
Gosh. Yeah. And I know one of the things was like kind of maybe a book too, right? So
yeah, that'll come in the last set of questions.
Perfect.
But
so
I
can't think of
don't
anything
think so. Yeah. I just like to ask it because sometimes someone thinks of something and I'm like, oh, that's another gem right there. So I just figured I like to ask it in case it gets away from us. Okay. So the final part of our interview is just what I like to call the lightning round. And it's just questions. And the first one, if you're ready, is your favorite book recommendations.
Clearly anything like John Maxwell is fantastic.
Yes.
There's a great book that was written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan called The One Thing. Right? These guys founded what is now the largest real estate company in the world, and it's not a real estate book. It's called The One Thing, right? So what one thing can I do today such that everything else is not as important or not as urgent? And really learning kind of how to mindset, goal set, and prioritize. So that book, The One Thing, is fantastic. There's another book we've been exposed to through our Mission 43 leadership group in Idaho called Lead Yourself First, right? So a couple of the big themes in that book, and I'm a Navy guy, right? So this is written by a West Point graduate, Army guy. So, but it's a great book, Lead Yourself First, and that talks a lot about the philosophies of taking time to unplug and taking thinking time. Focusing time, which can really easily be applied towards that work-life balance and making, hey, I'm aware of where I'm at. I'm thinking time. I'm planning time.
Yeah,
So and I'm unplugged. So that was a great book.
I
So
love that. Okay. And most admired person and why?
oh gosh, I've got a good long list of them.
Okay.
My wife would probably jump right in on Oprah, but
Yes.
for me, one of my most admired person would be Senator John McCain. Uh,
Okay.
again, I grew up in Arizona. Um, guy was did nothing but serve his entire military career and then political career. And this is not a political statement of
Yeah.
which side we're on
Sure.
at all,
Sure.
um,
Good
or
disclaimer.
as candidacy, but just as a man.
Yes. Yes. I like that.
He, as a POW, gave the ultimate sacrifice, and because of who he was, and his father was a renowned admiral, was offered the opportunity to leave the prisoner of war camp early in a prisoner exchange. And he said, that's not right. I'm not going to take advantage of my position when there are other people that have been here longer than me.
Wow.
Chose to stay in that environment to be a leader for the others. So
Oh, wow.
that, and then everything else he's done through his career, definitely one of my most admired people.
Well, I like that. And I love your reason. And then
Yep.
final question, Van, advice you wish you could give your younger self.
Yeah. So my younger self would be, probably a few things. One I mentioned earlier of, hey, don't have that fear of success, right? You can
Yes.
get
Yes.
busier and still have a life.
Love that.
Right. So, we all, fail. And there's another great book, Fail Forward, right? So
Mhm.
fail faster, learn from your mistakes, move on. Give yourself that grace to be, hey, you're never going to know it all. You're never going to have, or rarely going to have where you're in perfect balance on
Yes.
work life.
Uh-huh.
And that's okay. Right. So, you can do more in less time. You can fail faster, and give yourself permission to go, hey, that's all right. Don't. One of our other mindset things that we've learned is, don't judge your insides by other people's outsides. Right?
Oh, yeah.
They might look like they have it all together.
Yeah.
I want to aspire to be, do what they do, have what they have.
Yes.
But who knows what their insides really look
Right.
like, right?
That's true. I love
So
that.
don't judge your inside by someone else's outside, and give yourself
Mhm.
the grace to go, hey, there's going to be times of chaos. There's going to be times of out of balance.
Yes.
That's all right.
Yes.
Let's recognize them and then get back on course correct.
Yes. Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Van. It's been an awesome conversation. You shared so much, and I would love for people to know where they can find you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, our team is Front Porch Properties. Our website is goporch.com. We're with Keller Williams Realty Boise. We serve clients all over Southwest Idaho. We are now crazy the largest real estate company in the world, and we have lots of connections and people all over the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and I think 37 other countries. So if someone
Awesome.
needs a resource, we're
Yeah.
happy to be a resource for them.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, actually, I just have a friend that mentioned he just got his real estate license in Portugal. So I'll be
Cool.
connecting him to the other
Yeah,
group.
and I've met the two gentlemen that own the Keller Williams franchise in Portugal.
Really?
They're fantastic people.
Okay.
We're getting ready next week to have our international convention. We call it our family reunion.
Yeah.
It rotates places, but this year it's going to be in Anaheim. So
Oh, nice.
I'll round those two guys up and get you their contact information so you can
Okay.
make sure and introduce your friend to them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate this, Van, and I'll link Van's information below. And, everyone, this has just been phenomenal. Van, really appreciate it. If there are things that you struggle with in terms of work-life balance or even just well-being at work, I work with both organizations and individuals to help them have a healthier, more collaborative team environment, whether you're remote or working in the office. And I'm just really excited to bring this topic to everyone. Definitely stay tuned for some of our next interview guests. And thank you for watching. And we'll see you all in the next video. Also, remember to grab your free gifts from me in the link below as well. Under Van's information will be free guide on how to focus on your priorities, as well as a daily happiness formula. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next time.